Man, they just found Pablo Escobar's secret vaults. And you guys, you're not going to want to miss this video. Give this video 1 billion likes and give it 1 billion comments. And repost this 1 billion times onto your Facebook, TikTok stories, Facebook posts. Make this into a Facebook post so everybody can watch this video, check this video out, and repost it.
Lord was known to have hidden piles of money and drugs at his various homes around the world.
The homeowners who are renovating the property on Miami Beach, they're filming the demolition for a documentary. Local 10's Carlos Suarez live with more on what's being found.
They were never supposed to be found. Sealed beneath estates, buried under farmland, concealed behind walls thick enough to survive a military strike. Pablo Escobar's secret vaults were designed to outlast him. And for decades, most of them did. But here's what the rumors never told you. Some of those vaults have finally been opened. And what investigators found inside wasn't just money. It was a blueprint. A record of how one man built the most destructive criminal empire the modern world has ever seen. And exactly how far he was willing to go to protect it. This is the story of Escobar's hidden empire. And it starts long before the first dollar was ever buried. An empire built from nothing. Pablo Escobar did not inherit power. He manufactured it from the streets of Medellin through a combination of raw ambition, calculated violence, and an instinct for opportunity that most people never develop and almost no one dares to act on. His earliest crimes were almost banal in their simplicity. As a teenager in the late 1960s, he stole tombstones from cemeteries around Antioquia, sand-blasted the inscriptions clean, and resold them to families who had no idea where the stones had come from. It was a small operation, disrespectful, cold-blooded, and entirely without remorse. Those who knew him then later described a young man who showed no emotional connection to the harm he caused. A boy who had already separated himself from the consequences of his actions. From there, the crimes escalated with a pattern that investigators and criminologists would later study closely. Car theft followed the tombstones. Extortion followed the theft. Kidnapping followed the extortion. By 1971, Escobar's group had abducted and executed Medellin businessman Diego Echevarria, pocketing a ransom of $50,000 before disposing of the victim regardless. The killing wasn't just a crime, it was a signal, one that reached every corner of Colombia's underworld. This was a man who did not negotiate in good faith. He collected, and then he eliminated. What transformed Escobar from a dangerous street criminal into something categorically different was cocaine. Not the drug itself, but the scale he recognized in it at a moment when almost no one else did. By 1976, the trade routes were still forming. Distribution networks were fragile and disorganized. The American appetite for cocaine was exploding, and the infrastructure to feed it barely existed. Escobar saw all of this with startling clarity. That year, he was arrested transporting 39 kilograms hidden inside a vehicle tire near Medellin. The arrest should have ended his career. Instead, it became a lesson. He bribed his way out of detention. The officers who had arrested him were later killed. And from that moment forward, Escobar operated according to a philosophy he would articulate for the rest of his life. Plata o plomo, silver or lead, the bribe or the bullet. There was no third option. What made this creed so effective wasn't just the threat behind it. It was the consistency with which he applied it. Judges, politicians, police commanders, military officers, none were exempt. Anthropologist Mary Roldan, who has written extensively on the social history of Antioquia, later described Escobar's political corruption as systemic rather than opportunistic. He wasn't simply buying individual favors. He was purchasing institutional loyalty, converting the machinery of the Colombian state into a protection apparatus for his own operation. In April 1978, Escobar attended a meeting on a rural farm outside Medellin, alongside other mid-level traffickers. That gathering is now considered by Colombian law enforcement historians to mark the formal birth of the Medellin cartel. Within months, the combined operation was pushing approximately 19,000 kilograms of cocaine into the United States annually. Within years, that number would be almost impossible to comprehend. The weight of unlimited money. There is a figure that gets repeated whenever Escobar's wealth is discussed, and it is worth pausing on because it does not fully register the first time you hear it. At the height of his operation, the Medellin cartel was generating an estimated $420 million per week. Not per year, per week. His personal fortune, estimated by various Colombian and American law enforcement agencies, ranged between $30 billion and $60 billion, equivalent to roughly $80 billion in today's currency. In 1987, Forbes magazine placed him on its billionaires list, estimating his fortune at $3 billion, a figure that almost certainly undercounted what he actually controlled. He remained on that list for 7 consecutive years. The cartel was responsible for supplying approximately 80% of the world's cocaine at its peak. More than 15 tons entered the United States daily, moving through a logistics network that used fleets of aircraft, cargo ships, and eventually purpose-built narco-submarines, vessels constructed in jungle workshops and capable of crossing the Atlantic with multi-ton shipments. The DEA's examination of Escobar's transportation infrastructure later concluded it rivaled the operational complexity of a mid-sized international freight company. He built accordingly. His estate, Hacienda Nápoles, spread across 7,000 acres in Antioquia. It featured a colonial mansion at its center, surrounded by artificial lakes, a private airstrip, a bull ring, and a personal zoo stocked with giraffes, elephants, and hippopotamuses imported from Africa. The hippos, famously, could not be removed after Escobar's death and established a feral population in Colombia's Magdalena River basin that still exists today, an ecological consequence that wildlife biologists are still attempting to manage. In Medellin, he constructed the 8-story Monaco building for his family, outfitting it with swimming pools, a tennis court, reinforced security systems, and a purpose-built panic room. In the Caribbean, he maintained a fortified villa on Isla Grande, equipped with a helicopter pad, bullet-resistant windows, and private docking facilities. His car collection drew particular attention from investigators after his death. Among the vehicles cataloged were a Porsche 911 Carrera RSR, previously campaigned by Formula One world champion Emerson Fittipaldi, a Harley-Davidson that had once belonged to Frank Sinatra, and the jet ski featured in the 1977 James Bond film The Spy Who Loved Me. Many of these were later destroyed in car bombings or seized by authorities, their burned-out shells displayed at Hacienda Nápoles as grim monuments to his excess. But the most revealing detail about Escobar's wealth wasn't any single possession. It was what happened to the money he couldn't spend. His brother Roberto, who served as the cartel's chief accountant, later testified that the organization spent approximately $2,500 per month on rubber bands alone, used solely to bundle the stacks of incoming cash. He estimated that nearly 10% of all stored currency, over $2 billion annually, was lost to rats, mold, flooding, and physical decay in the warehouses and underground vaults where it was hidden. In one documented incident during a period of hiding, Escobar burned approximately $2 million in banknotes through a single night to keep his daughter warm from the cold. The detail is not exaggerated. It appears in multiple independent accounts and was confirmed by family members after his death. Money had become, in the most literal sense, disposable. The architecture of concealment.